Good morning, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? I am fine. All right, we got a pretty big class for you today. We had the Players Championship on yesterday, of which I knew nobody. I watched the leaders tee off and was like, who are these people? And the one guy, the Oriental guy, takes an iron out and misses the fairway. And I go, well, he's done. He ended up shooting 77. You can tell when these guys get the lead, they choke. That's what they do. They can't handle the pressure. They had a good last round. Now I'm the leader, and they can't stay stoic. They worry about the pressure. I'm the leader instead of, I got to play golf. I got to hit a shot and then hit another shot and then hit another shot. That's what Jack Nicklaus did. He just focused on hitting his shots. These guys just choke. Then you see these other guys, like who the number one guy is, Scott, whatever. I don't know how this guy's the number one guy. He stinks. But they make a bad shot and they throw, like, I hate Jordan Spieth. Hits the ball in the water and then throws his club. All right, he's a child out there. He's not a winner. When you do that, you've got to look at golf stoically, or poker, or anything you play stoically. That's what happens. I play poker stoically. I have aces. It gets busted. It's part of the game. It happens. They hit the flush on you. The guy hit the two pair on me. I have aces. He has jacks, and he hits the 10 on the river. This is part of the game. You can't get upset about it. It's not personal. You got your cards. He played it bad, but he won. That's it. I've been hit by two outers. I've had aces to tens in a big pot, or aces and queens. I think the aces and tens, and the 10 comes on the river. And it's just, one guy said to me, you took it well. And I go, well, but that's what it is. You can't control it. It's just what happens. So you must stay stoic. In other words, you can only control what you can control. Everything else is just a crapshoot. You can't control it. So that's what I see from these golfers, or a lot from the football players, or whatever. They make a mistake. It's okay. You're going to make mistakes. It's how you react to them. You just keep going. So when you're playing poker and some guy draws out on you, there's nothing you can do. If he made a good play or a bad play, or he shouldn't have played. Phil Hellmuth has this problem where somebody might call him with an 8-9 and then catch a straight, and he's crying, why did the guy call me? Well, it doesn't matter why he called you. He called you and he beat you, and you've got to just stay stoic and just ignore it. I lost the hand. I'm not going to win every hand. I lost the hand. Oh, well. It's just the way your luck is. You obviously bet bad that he called you with 8-9. Because Phil Hellmuth likes to trap. Phil Hellmuth likes to trap. Sorry about that. So he doesn't bet. Well, so of course guys with 8-9 are going to call him. You're inviting the bad hands in because you don't know how to play poker, Phil Hellmuth. You make the big bet when you got kind of a decent hand. You got kings. They're not a great hand. If an ace flops, you're fucked. If 3 diamonds come out, you're fucked. 6, 7, 8 comes out, you're fucked. So you've got to bet it aggressively pre-flop. And I know they don't want to give patterns, so they don't. Oh, he bet big. He's got a hand. He bet big. He's got. Fuck it. I always bet my aces. I very rarely limp in. I made that mistake once on a very aggressive table where I limped in, and everybody checked on me, and I was like 10 people in the pot, and I'm going shit. But I was the first to act, and it was an aggressive table where there's 2, 3 pre-flop raisers. So I'm figuring I'm going to get a bet, and then I'm going to get another better call, and then I'm going to go all in. That was the plan. So I checked, but nobody bet. Then the flop comes, and there's a pair of 2s down the board. I know somebody's at the third 2. I'm fucked. I fold. But generally, I would have the aces had I not been in the first seat, and the table not been extremely explosive. But that's what happens. So my point is, all you can do is you're going to lose hands. It's how you react to them. You can't. I never tilt myself. I'm very stoic at the table. I don't tilt myself. I don't really get into it with other people, unless we're talking gold or something, or Michigan football, whatever. But generally, I lost. Okay. And it's fine. The guy stayed in on me, and he calls me with a pair of jacks, and I got a pair of aces. What am I? It's like, fine. I'm playing with a moron, and you should like that. So anyway, you stay stoic in golf. You're gonna make bad shots. It's too hard of a sport to hit the ball perfectly. It's too small of a ball. The club. The long club, and it's all timing. You got to turn your wrist over at the ball, and sometimes you get a little tired, you get a little sore. You're later in the round, your mind's not mentally there. So there's a lot of things that are going to create a bad shot. You just have to understand it. Throwing your club at it like Jordan Spieth did, the guy's out of his mind. Now I see Rory. Rory seems to just kind of laugh it off. I don't think he gets as bothered. I could win him 10 tournaments a year because I could teach him how to putt. He's a terrible putter. He has no feel for the putt. He doesn't visualize the putt. When you see a putt, here's the hole, right? And here you are. You got to visualize it. You don't look at it. You see it in your mind. You go, I'm going to hit it to the hole. I'll never leave it short, and I'll read the breaks, and then that's what I'm going to do. And we'll see what happens. I make a lot of them because I don't leave them short. But he's a terrible putter. Oh my God. He's a terrible chipper. I was watching him yesterday. The guy's a pig. I don't know how he won the majors. He just got lucky to hit it. Now he just wants a big drive. He can't chip and he can't putt. He wonders why he can't win. So anyway, but he seems to not be as affected as it. That Scotty Scheffler, whatever, the number one, he's like a baby. He's like a 5-year-old out there. He's crying. He's throwing his clubs. I can't believe the ball went left or right. Dude, you're hitting the ball into hills, and wind, it's going to go wherever it fucking wants to. And you can't, getting upset, that doesn't really help you. But that's sports. It's the ability to concentrate and not get affected by the bad breaks because you have no control over them. The kicker misses a kick. Oh, well. Now, if you call the wrong play, you've got to recover from it. Right? God knows Terry Bradshaw threw a lot of interceptions, and that hurt them. Hey, David. Good morning. How are you? So, I mean, a lot of sports, well, a lot of everything, even at a job. When they said my job was eliminated at Tenneco, I could have just ripped at my boss for being an idiot, but I stayed stoic and I said, yeah, you guys are being sold. And then the HR manager said, well, you keep stacking your gold. And I says, yeah, well, anybody with paper is going to go broke. I says, I'll be fine with my gold. Like, You know, why did you bring me aboard then? Or whatever. My boss was terrible at communication. He told me he's a visual learner. Okay, well, you never talked to me about what my skills are. I found that to be the most ridiculous. So in other words, my skills are economics, finance, problem solving. As you see me problem solve gold to get it down to a science. So that's what I do best is what's your problem and I'll figure it out. But they never even came to me for that. They had me do little stuff. But the point was, at the time they eliminated a position, they didn't put me somewhere else. And I just kind of laughed at them. I said, well, it's your loss. I'm the smartest guy you got here, and you're letting me go. I don't know what. Good luck. You'll be sold soon. And I guess you guys will be looking for jobs too. See, I don't get when you hire a guy from Brazil to be the boss of Americans. It's never going to work because he doesn't understand Americans. He couldn't even speak clearly. He couldn't say Howard. But anyway, you stay stoic in it, right? And then you just kind of glance it off and off it goes. All right, real quickly, I'm going to do an Egon one because I just see it.
Government always says prices are going up, but it's just the value of the money, your dollar or your euro, your pound in your pocket that's going down because governments are continuously destroying the value of your money or of your currency. I've shown that example before. 71, you bought 400-ounce gold bar for $14,000, 14,000 for 12 kilos, 400 ounces. Today, that gold bar is worth $1 million. And that's not the gold price going up. That's your currency, whether it's the pound or the dollar or the euro, going down by 99% since 1971. Government always says prices are going up. But it's just a bad.
Well, I agree it's the dollar going down, but I also agree the demand for gold is what's pushing the price up on it. So I don't know why they just think the dollar is the inflation, the dollar is worthless, meaning it takes more dollars to buy things. But I don't get where it's just the dollar going down and not the demand. And my counter to that is, well, how about silver then? Why is silver only $30? Now, silver was $1.25 back then, but even that's not a real price. So now silver's just about 34. But if it's the dollar going down, making gold go to 3,000, silver should be what, 1,000, 500, 700. So why isn't it? Here's a Chinese supplier. New factory orders dropped to 0. So China's got big problems here. This is China Observer if you're looking for stuff about China. But they got real big problems. People are going out. There was one I was watching. All the girls are working at nightclubs now because they can't find jobs. Let's see. Okay, let's explain monopolies. Monopolies are when there's no competition. So what happens when there's monopolies? Well, you got to pay more for the goods because what do I talk about when we go to the grocery store? Excuse me. When we go to the grocery store, we see a 2-liter of Coke for $3, but then we see What I get? I get Squirt, and Squirt's $1.99. That's competition. That's substitution. Okay, I won't get the Coke, but I still want pop. I'll get Squirt, or I can get 7-Up, or I can get Dr. Pepper, or I can get Faygo. The choice of the competition allows me to buy other things that are more in my price range or less expensive, or I don't want to pay so much for Coke. And what does Coke do then? Coke sits there and goes, let's mark 2 for $5. So it's $2.50 a 2 liter or something, or $2. Buy one, get one free, or buy one, get one half off, which is $1.50 in 3. So it's $4.50. That's what they do because of competition. A monopoly is when there is no competition. So if you want pop, you have to have Coke, and they can charge whatever they want. They can charge $20 for a Coke. Now, you still have some competition with water or juice, right? Even wine. You do have some competition, but when you do get a monopoly situation, they can charge what they want. If you need the product, you're going to pay for it. Now, if they don't need the product, no, it's still, I can get another product. Now, I was watching this. I was watching something on the Roman Empire. And Julius Caesar. And it becomes the problem watching that and linking it to today. The biggest problem I see in Rome, it was the generals took over as the consuls or as the emperors, right? Julius Caesar and then his bloodline and Nero and all these guys, bloodline, Marcus Aurelius, his son, and all these, the emperors chose their successors. And the problem is they're not qualified for it. But because it's a monopoly, it's not like you could do. What are you going to do? This is the government. There's no other government to follow or create the rules. And this is why every country collapses. You have people in there that aren't qualified. It'd be like, if you want to have a good football team, you hire a good coach. You hire Vince Lombardi. Okay, we're going to do good. Imagine hiring Larry Lombardi. Who's that? Exactly. But Vince is going to give his son, Larry Lombardi, as the next coach. But he's not qualified. What's going to happen to your team? It's going to suck. But Vince chose the guy. Well, look what he did. He chose Phil Bankston, who basically sucked. He was their defensive coordinator, but that's the point. He was a good defensive coordinator, not a good head coach, and not replacing Lombardi. So he ran into problems. He had an older team, which age caught up with them after three-peating. What are they going to do? They're going to fall apart. But let's look at it today in government. I was watching 24, season 7 last night, and it really came to me. The problem, if you watch the beginning of it, is there's like 100 people corrupted in the government that are on the foreign generals pay list, right? And you start, how can this be? How are they this stupid? Well, because not only is it corrupt, but the people in charge aren't qualified. You're looking at President Taylor, Rusty's mom from Ocean's 12. She's not qualified to be the president. If you understand, the government is people that are voted in and elected. Now, back in 1776, it made sense. You want people, somebody's got to lead. The concept makes sense, but it gets lost in who gets chosen. Are they in it for themselves or for the best interest of the state, right? Virginia, Maryland. And you have people that will take it, but as we've expanded and we let lobbyists in, we're not picking qualified people to run these things. And that's the problem with government. So it becomes corrupt because the guys there, now the guys get elected so they can get the lobbyist money from the defense contractors. Well, that's not why you're elected. How do you choose the elected? Well, it's got to be like choosing an NFL coach. You gotta, well, have you worked in, have you managed something? The president of the United States has to be somebody who's like managed a big company. It's a big company, right? You have all these underlings below you, and they got to make, they got to understand what the hell they're doing. And in the Biden presidency, they had no clue. Clinton had no clue. Look what he did to the housing things. Wow, everybody will own a house. What the fuck's he talking about? So you have people that don't understand, that aren't qualified to be in the government. And this is why every government around the world is not qualified to be the government. And all the George Soros comes in and chooses his people. Well, that's not the idea of government. It's supposed to be leaders to come in and run a company, kind of. And this is the problem. So you're looking at people unqualified to do the roles in government, and yet they're going to do the roles. You get all this corruption. Nobody cares. Their excuse in 24 is, well, I'm doing it for the good of the country. No, you're not. You're doing it to line your pocket. Yeah, we'll let them get nukes. Yeah, that's the best interest of the country. And then they all get arrested. They all get found out by Jack. Here's the mole. But it all leads you back to these people aren't qualified to do anything. You had David Palmer, who was a good president because he was tough, willing to do what he thought was necessary. But then you had Logan, and then you had this Taylor woman. She's not qualified. And this is the problem. Why are these people in charge? If you're running a business, would you put Charles Logan and Rusty's mother in charge? No, they're not qualified for it. So it's almost, the problem is the government, the whole concept is wrong. It's totally, you're not putting the people in charge, are not qualified, and there's no system to put qualified people in charge. I mean, if you look at now, what happens? We elect Trump because we don't want Kamala Harris. Is Trump competent to do it? No. But then what does Trump do? He then he then puts in his cabinet. Are these people qualified to do Secretary of Defense and Homeland Security and all that? Not even asking, should we have all these? No. And then the people under them, are they qualified? They're all corrupt. The whole government's corrupt. It's way too big. You can't afford that big of a government. That's why it's got to be limited. There can't be lobbyists. There can't be the defense contractors paying everybody off to keep wars going on so they can keep making money. There's a video I'm going to show you on that. And what it says is all the contracts by the defense contractors, Northrop, Raytheon, are all cost plus. So you bill us $1 million, and then you add 20% to it. And there's no thought, there's no competition, so there's no thought of keeping your price down. It's on the contrary, you charge $1 million when it should be 500,000, and then you're going to get the 20% profit on top of it. So they just keep raising their price because they got monopolies now. There was one in here, I think it's Raytheon or Northrop, is the only one that can build the tank, this tank. So if you want the tank, you got to go to them, and it's a monopoly, so you're going to pay X. You're gonna pay 20 times their cost. And then I even hear that most of it's assembled by outside contractors. So they're not even building it. They're just putting it together. So it's like a restaurant. You make the hamburger, you make the salad, you make the soup, and then I'm the head waiter. I'm the head cook. I'm just going to put it on the plate. So you give me all the meals, and I'll put it on the plate and serve it. Wow, what a great chef you are. If you ever get a chance, watch the movie Burnt with whatchamacallit. I always forget this guy's name. The guy from Limitless. What's his name? Bradley Cooper. So Bradley Cooper plays the chef, and he's screaming and ranting. And then who the fuck would work for that? And then everybody has, one guy's got the meat, one guy's got the salad, one guy's got the fish, one guy's got the chicken, and the order comes out and they make their thing, and that's what happens. Hey, Prophet, good morning. So that's what the defense contractors are doing. They're basically, somebody else is putting it and they just put it together and go, here you go. And we're going to charge you $5 million. If you don't like it, too bad. Now, Clinton is the one that did this. There was a lot of defense contractors who would compete, and he turned them into monopolies. He said, well, we'll just take the top 5. And you do the tank, and you do this, and you know, it'd be more efficient. Again, another person unqualified to do that. If you had me in there, I would say you can't have monopolies. You can't have price things. We're going to make sure there's substitute goods. If we don't want Coke, there's Pepsi available, or there's 7-Up, or there's Dr. Pepper. That's what you need in an economy. Why doesn't it work in the government? You can't have monopolies in the government. And I don't like this voting thing. You don't know who you're voting for. It's the stupidest system in the world. I think we need, I don't even know if we need a government, but maybe, or different parts of it. We need something to keep our money clean. We need something for laws. We need something for a military. And we need something to make sure we have gold-backed currency, and we got to have free trade. So we need somebody in charge of each section, and that's it. Why is the president head of military and the commander-in-chief? Is he qualified to be a commander-in-chief? Has Trump been in a war? Has Trump, know how to make decisions and make that? No, he doesn't know what he's doing. So how is he in charge of the army? I mean, that's the scary part, right? He's in charge of the army, but he has no experience doing anything. He wants to do tariffs on everybody. Why? You don't know what they'll do. Well, I'm mad because BRICS wants to come out with a different. I think the BRICS currency is launched or getting launched. I can't get a firm thing on it. We'll watch a video on that. But basically, it says BRICS launches shocking new payments. Well, it's not shocking. We've known all about it. Now, this is supposed to be one day ago, but it never gets. I guess they've launched something. What you have in BRICS is China and Brazil. China trades with Brazil and gets meat and gets other iron ore and stuff. And Brazil.
Sometimes life gets hectic. Luckily, Rover makes pet care easy.
Male vlogger who has worked.
Okay, we're not trying to do that. My screen went black. So China needs meat. They need certain things. This is why you don't want to be a one country isolationist. You don't have everything. So you need certain things. And with the competition of other countries, the quality goes up, the price goes down. This is why you don't want to be, don't have a monopoly, and you don't want to shut everybody out. So here comes Trump shutting everybody out. We're going to tariff you, Russia, China, Brazil, and 20 other countries if you go to a gold-backed currency. What the fuck is that? We don't need you. What is it that they buy from us? Nothing. Now, what is it? We are the leading customer. Okay, so we have the biggest, we have the most customers. So you're a store, and in comes the USA to buy your goods. Yes, we have the most of that. However, our money's worthless. And by the way, there's a lot of Chinese, there's a lot of Indians, there's a lot of Brazilians, there's a lot of Russians who need that also. So I'm not really sure, Trump's thinking through. Is he qualified to think it through? No, because as we know, the best thing you can do is have free trade, because you're going to need things from them, right? You might not. You might want Argentina beef or something from Brazil or something from Russia or something from China. You might need those goods and service, but if you're not free trading with them, you're not going to get them. So he's trying to be a protectionist, which means we'll have U.S. jobs and everything will be our own monopoly. How good is that going to be? That's why you have the depressions that you have, is you put a lot of people out of work. Profit. Do gold and silver prices move on the weekend, or does it shut down like the stock market? No, it doesn't. It'll start tonight when China takes over, because it's China's Monday morning. So so gold ends 5:15 on Friday, and then it's off Saturday, and it's off until 6:30 tonight, or right around there. China gets it going. See, so the gold market goes China late night, early morning, then Europe goes in like 2 a.m. till about 10, and then the U.S. has it 10 to about 5. And that's how it works. That's why you always see it at the end of the day going down, because the U.S. has it. And what you don't see is when you're sleeping, China pushing the price up, and you don't know what Europe's doing. But in my mind, they're all fucked anyway, because they've got to settle when the claims are made, when people want to settle in gold and silver, and they don't have it. And that's how COMEX breaks. COMEX doesn't have the gold and silver to ensure when people ask for delivery. When Russia says, I want 10,000 tons of gold that I paid for in the contract, you got to give them the gold. You can't default that. They will get mad if you're not fulfilling your obligation. Profit. Trump is actually a draft dodger. I would imagine most rich people are. You think Biden's kid went to the war, or any of them? And if they did serve, it's like Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio. They played baseball. They didn't actually see other people fighting them. That's the thing. They can hide them. Paul Hornung was in the National Reserve or something in the 60s. He wasn't going to see action, but there was a big game coming up, and he says to Lombardi, I can't play. They won't let me out. So Lombardi called JFK and said, I need Hornung. And next thing you know, he's on a plane to play for the Packers. So who has more things, JFK or Vince Lombardi? Of course, Vince Lombardi. But that's what you need to run the country, is Vince Lombardi. It's Bill Parcells. It's Bill Walsh. Not Don Shula. He never won anything. But that's what you need. You want Bill Walsh running the country, Bill Parcells running the country. Somebody that knows how to run a country. And that's not what you have now. Trump is not capable of running a country. We're going to tariff him. He just shot. There was a war, I guess, yesterday with the Somali, all the pirates. The tariffs he wants to do. He doesn't understand the effect of it. He's got Musk running around doing government waste. Well, you're not going to stop it. I mean, it sounds good, but you're not going to stop it. But how is he in charge of the military? Now, is he creative and goes to his generals? Who can he trust? The Army, Navy, Air Force guys, and ask them. They're going to want to go to war. Is that the prudent thing? I have no idea. Anyway, watching 24 season 7, this woman Taylor had no idea what she was doing, and it's crazy. And watching 24 each season, it's the same script. Jack saves the day. Then a few hours later, they arrest Jack because he beat up somebody. And then they realize what Jack's done and they let him go because he's the only one who can save the day. And all of a sudden they forgive him for beating up the guy because he got the information out of him. So in season 7, they're after him for being, because you're too rough. And he's like, but I get the information. And so they don't let him interrogate, and they invade the White House. And, they should have killed the president's daughter to teach her a lesson. And they, then they start realizing, yeah. And Jack's like, well, if you would have let me do this, this wouldn't have happened. We would have known it's coming. We would have been prepared for it. And, Jack's point is it gets the job done. We're trying to stop this terrorist attack. We're dealing with terrorists. We're not dealing with some guy who went into a bank and, whatever, or, went into a drugstore and stole a pack of gum. We're dealing with terrorists. And you got to treat terrorists different than everybody else. And it makes perfect sense. But they keep taking him off, wondering, well, wait a minute, what Jack does has worked in all the other seasons. Why, he stopped a nuclear attack in season 4. Like, maybe we should just let him do his job. But they always interfere, and then he always comes through. And when they do interfere, they always fuck up everything. But, okay, that's the TV series. But in real life, they're even worse. They're more fuck ups than anything. It's just ridiculous how inept the government really is. And they spend way too much. They don't get money. You can't spend more than you have. Well, we're gonna have a $5 trillion deficit on your debt, on your budget this year. You're gonna have a budget deficit of $5 trillion. You got a $37 trillion debt. 37 trillion. You're spending more than you're taking in. Does that make sense? Do you know what you're doing? No. You're just, government's too big, and you got all your buddies in it, and they're all getting kickbacks, and they're all getting money. And that's the problem. You can't do that. You need somebody who can run the team. So if you're running a football team, your offensive coordinator keeps running on 4th down into the line and not getting it, you fire the offensive coordinator. The quarterback can't complete a pass, Lamar, you're going to get rid of him. That's the key to it. If they don't do it, you let them go. But in the government, you don't do anything with them. You let them keep doing it as long as you get your kickback. Why do you let the defense contractors act as lobbyists, paying off all the politicians? Why does that happen? Well, I'm getting paid off, so I don't care. But that's not the point of you being in the government. So in other words, if the mafia pays the coach to lose, like Super Bowl III, you let it happen. You just, but we got paid off, so we lost. And by the way, the Baltimore owner bet like $15 million on the Jets that game. So, yeah, it wasn't fixed. That's why Namath guaranteed it, because he knew the game was fixed. So he knew they were going to win because Baltimore played like crap. Earl Morrall took the fix and a couple other players. And that's what happened. He threw 5 picks. Yeah, just like golf. I guess golf's on the take, too. You prefer that I run the country. Well, if I ran the country, I'd hire the Russian KGB to be my security team. Because I wouldn't trust anybody in America. They're all a bunch of bubbleheads. Look at Trump in his speech. They let a sniper 100 yards away sit on a roof, and nobody did anything. They just let him sit. Oh, yeah, that's who I want. It's too political here. But that's what I would do. Is I'd get Russian KGB, and I'd work with Putin to protect me. I'd put us on the gold standard. I'd get free trade. I'd take all the tariffs off. I'd make friends with the Russians and the Chinese, the big boys. And we'd have a gold standard, and we'd have free trade. And if BRICS wanted to do BRICS, I'd be fine. Trump wants to stop BRICS from doing it. Well, that's not your job, Trump. It's their job. It's their countries. They can do what they want. Since when are you there to dictate what the Russians and the Chinese and the Indians can do? That's not his job. His job should be gold standard free trade. And I love how he gets to Fort Knox and he can't find gold. Well, the first thing I'd be doing is, if I'm going to keep the price down in comex on gold and silver, I'm buying a shitload of it. But probably I can't, because there probably isn't any to buy. So I'm totally fucked right off the bat. I'd not venture in Bitcoin. I would have free laws, and I would have this much government, and the lobbyists would be gone. The defense contractors would be gone. I would open it up to competition, which is simple to do. And I would make them hit a budget target. I'm going to give you $1 million to produce 1,000 tanks. Who can do that? Oh, you can't do that? Go fuck yourself. Well, let's see who can do it. Not let them control it. Well, it's going to cost you this. It's cost plus. I'm going to show you this military one. It really opens your eyes. Henry Hill talks all about the SB3 fix in his book, Wise Guy. Oh, well, it's obvious. I mean, like I said, you knew about it. That's how, I think that's why Shula left, right? Then he coaches Miami because that was part of the fix. Okay, he's embarrassed. He goes to Miami and he wins 2 Super Bowls. So he got back what he lost, but that was a total fix. And that was because they wanted the Jets to show the AFC was good. Baltimore should have done what Green Bay did. Notice how they didn't have Lombardi fix it, because there's no way he'd have done it. But you blame Shula for Lee's being moral in the game. It reminded me of the Black Sox 1919, the movie 8 Men Out, and the guy's hitting guys and not pitching and leaving them in. Yeah, no. You hit the guy, really? This is a World Series. You're hitting a guy. Okay, you're out. And that's it. Bring in other pitchers, and at least you have a chance. But to have a guy who's fixing the game, you can't have that. Prophet, he was good friends with Namath. The Wise Guys all hung out at the nightclub Namath was a part owner of. Yeah, that's where Mano went too. Jets to win on the money line, paid 6-1. Yeah, and I know the owner bet he had $14 million on the JETSs. The other one that was fixed was Tampa Oakland, when the Oakland coach didn't change the plays. So Tampa knew by setup what the play was going to be. Callahan, I mean, really, you're the head coach. You know your head coach doesn't like you and is friends with Gruden, and you leave him in there. I mean, that's what the hell's going on. Maybe they all bet on Tampa. That's what that sounds like. You have to question why he changed the game plan and why he kept it and why all the Tampa players knew all the Oakland calls. Maybe everybody in Oakland bet on Tampa also. Maybe. Because how stupid can the coach be not to change the plays? I mean, what, are you kidding me? So that's kind of where I see that happening. So the danger of monopolies is no competition, no substitution. And there's certain things like lights and heat you probably need a monopoly for. It's very expensive. But Coca-Cola and chocolate and M&Ms, no, you have to have competition. It keeps the quality good and the price down. That's why you have competition. That's why you go look at TVs, computers, anything you want. There's competition, and notice the price is cheap. Golf clubs, tennis, whatever, it should keep the price down. Gruden ball was definitely fixed. Yeah, but if you really start thinking about it, it was fixed for Oakland bettors to bet on Tampa, because they knew they were going to switch to that thing, right? So all the players are practicing one way and he switches it. We're going to go back to the other way, which all the players say you can't do. If you're practicing X, you got to play X in the game. So we were playing to win, and then he played to lose, and they got killed, and it was definitely fixed. There's no question. You can smell a fixed game, right? It's just I don't know if these Michigan Ohio State games are fixed or not, but I would think the one this year smelled to high heaven. Michigan wins 13-10 with the third string quarterback and their best receiver and their best cornerback out. And then Ohio State goes ahead and puts up 50 points on Notre Dame, who had a really good defense, and Oregon, and they lose to Michigan. Like, that smells to high heaven there. So that's what we're dealing with now in a very corrupt world, but it starts at the very corrupt government. So let's show you this military problem. You wonder why there's always war. Because they want war, because it's fixed, because the defense contractors can only make money if they do it. Then you wonder, we just keep printing money, so we pay Raytheon, and then the lobbyists kick back to the government. So when the government does this, the government gets the kickback also. So the government's in on it, which is what you don't know. You think, oh, the monopoly for Raytheon and Northrop. Yeah, we do pay them cost plus, but part of the cost is making sure that the government gets their $10 million. And then they always have war. It's very unnerving and totally not necessarily. But after watching 24 season 7 yesterday with John Voight and his thing, they kind of understand going, yeah, they're invading their own country because they want to get the contract. And that's just ridiculous. And I'm sure that happens all the time. And it happens in every country. And then all the leaders in every country, look at Venezuela's leader. He's a communist dictator. And the problem with dictators, it's a monopoly, right? And then he's communist, so the government runs everything. Well, that's not what we want. That's not the point of government. Government is supposed to create competition. And that's why supposedly a Democrat and Republican is supposedly competition. But it isn't. Now it's all a monopoly. And monopolies never work because they don't have to do anything. They can do whatever they want. There's nobody to say no. There's no other brand to go to. All right, so this will really freak you out. This is about government monopoly. Here we go.
Wait, hold on. Did you just invade Sudan? And you're playing as the Congo? That's a horrible idea. Like, look at all these...
And I just can't emphasize enough.
There is so much fraud, waste, and abuse. It's everywhere.
No agency in the federal government wastes money like the Department of Defense.
The DOD has never successfully passed an audit.
Come on, never?
Never.
The stuff that they lose in the couch cushions is like $20, $30 billion a year. They just don't know where it went. It's gone.
In my world, if I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that's waste.
How is that waste? President Trump, along with Elon Musk and his team at DOGE, have their sights set on reining in waste at the Pentagon.
Check the military. We're going to find hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse.
But so far, this is what DOGE has to show for its efforts.
We believe that these initial findings will probably save $80 million in wasteful spending.
A grand total of less than 0.01% of the total defense budget. So what exactly is the Pentagon doing with $900 billion? We spoke to people who audited the Defense Department.
We have real estate that they can't account for. Real estate is in a piece of land.
An insider at a major defense contractor.
All my effort is really just flowing taxpayer monies up into these billionaires in charge of the whole thing.
And military spending experts to find out where the real waste and abuse is in our defense budget. What they reveal is that the biggest source of waste is hiding in plain sight, and it could get even worse.
We want the biggest, most badass military on the planet.
We're not at war with anybody.
Almost every audit I did was very obviously a wasteful project in one way or another.
Paul Kennedy worked as an auditor for the Department of Defense Inspector General's Office, an agency tasked with preventing waste, fraud, abuse, and mismanagement. One of the programs he audited was the F-35, the most expensive weapon system in history with a total lifetime cost of over $2 billion.
We were trying to see if they were managing their spare parts program, the best they can and saving money whenever they can.
But what they found was often the opposite.
This is a report on the F-35 repair parts process.
Paul's report revealed that $34.5 million worth of spare parts were thrown out without approval.
We didn't watch it get destroyed. We don't know that it was actually destroyed. We don't even know that it was bad. We just simply know that there's a part here that you say was beyond economical repair, and you got rid of it. That would be like borrowing my car and selling the radio out of it because it didn't work anymore. No, you need my permission to do that.
Between 2018 and 2023, over 1 million spare parts for the F-35 worth over $85 million were lost, damaged, or destroyed, according to a GAO report. So how exactly does the government get away with so much waste? Well, it's not the government doing it. The F-35 is made by Lockheed Martin, a multi-billion-dollar company and the U.S.'s biggest defense contractor.
Going back to the Revolutionary War, essentially, there have always been military contractors. One of the things that happens with defense contracting more than any other contracting with the federal government is something called a cost type contract. The contractor is reimbursed for any what they call reasonable cost plus some kind of profit.
So if the government wants to build a new military aircraft like the F-35, it will pay a private company to design and manufacture it, and all the costs that go along with the project.
They then have no incentive to reduce costs because they know they're going to be reimbursed. And then on top of that, there's a profit built in that the government will pay.
Since 2001, government spending on private military contractors has tripled, despite evidence that contractors aren't always using taxpayer dollars wisely. To find out exactly what companies are doing with this money, we talked to someone on the inside.
I work at a major U.S. defense contractor. These defense contractors, they're there to make a profit, bottom line.
The defense industry is controlled by 5 main companies, siphoning billions of dollars from the government every year. These companies regularly outperform the S&P 500 and have profit margins between 9 and 20%.
Now, that doesn't seem like a lot when you're just looking at it percentage-wise, but when you're talking about billions of dollars, that is a ton of money.
And for big projects, the government isn't paying these margins for just one company.
Prime contractors, they want their 9 to 20% of the contract, and underneath them, the sub wants 9 to 20%, and then it goes on and down below. And so you have this compounding effect. Some contractors literally are just integrators of subcontractors. A lot of times they don't do fucking shit. They just put the thing together when they're done. Say, here you go, now give me my 20%.
Jeff estimates that when you add it all up, roughly 30% of the total cost of the project is just profit for contractors and subcontractors.
So in that 30% is the government getting their kickbacks. The president and DOD chief and all that, the generals, they're part of that 30%. So this is why they keep going. Now imagine trying to balance a budget when you've got these idiots sitting there going, oh, we're going to just, it's cost plus. What you should do, if it's I'm running it and I'm making the contract, I go, no, I'm going to give you $5 million. You figure out how to make it for $5 million. And then I'm going to add competition, because without competition, they have no incentive to keep their price down. And it's cost plus, there is no incentive. So they're going to charge you this, even though it probably costs this. And then I'm going to get my kickback because I'll just say, add me to the cost. And then they add some profit into that. Well, what's in the cost? This is the problem. How can you balance a budget when you don't even know what the budget is? You've got contracts like this. Who the hell is this idiot doing a cost plus contract? Where's this coming from? Oh, probably the guy that gets the kickback, because then he can show his $5 million into it, and then we're going to pay him cost plus, and then they make 20% margin or whatever, which is already baked in the initial cost plus. So you would never do this. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. This should be, you got somebody going to paint your house. You're going to say, oh, cost plus, whatever it costs, I'll add 20% to it. Or you're going to say, how much you going to pay? How much you going to charge me? $50, Joe, 45, Bill, 40. I'm going to go with Bill for 40. Bill's the winner. That's how you do negotiate a contract. You have competition. I mean, normally you do 3 vendors, right? If you want to buy shoes, you look at 3 different brands. If you want to buy a shirt, you look at 3 different brands. Golf clubs, you're not just buying, notice how there's 10 brands of golf clubs. So the point is, in the defense contract, why is there only 5? And they're all monopolies, and they're all doing, one does the jet, one does a tank, and one does a boat or whatever. And then you're not even making them come in at budget. You're saying, oh, it's whatever it costs plus. Who is in charge of that? What idiot would do that? And this is the problem. How do you balance a budget? I don't even know what my defense spending is going to be, but I guarantee it's going to be more. And then as you create all these wars, they're making money, which means you're making money because you get the lobbyists pay you off. So you say, okay, we're going to have this war here. I want 20 million from you for that. You get the contract and off they go. This is how it's corrupt. This is how the wrong people are in charge. They're not put there based on their skill. They're based on their being corrupt. They're based on money. Okay, I'll put you in charge. I want $10 million. Okay, fine. We'll get all the contracts. This is a problem with the government, with the whole system where the people aren't qualified to be doing it. Your idiotic way of coming up with this, not having competition and not having, see, Clinton did this, got rid of the competition, made monopoly. I'm sure he got kickbacks. How do you think these presidents get $60,000 a year or $100,000 a year and end up with $20 million? Well, where do you think that's coming from? Right here. So you have, it would always be a competitive bid. You'd have 3 bids, and you would basically, if they say I can build it for $5 million, I'd say I'll pay you $4 million. And if you don't like it, tough. Or what's in my budget for it? How much can I afford? And if I can't afford it, I don't build it. Yeah, I guess go have your war somewhere else, because I can't pay you, $10 billion to build a rocket. I mean, give me a break. So I think that's a lot of it. You have corrupt people that are voted in, and then you have their friends who are like Trump. He's just putting Elon Musk isn't voted in. He's not capable. He can't run a company. He shouldn't be there because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not qualified. And this is the problem. So Musk is finding this. So, okay, so big deal. It's already corrupt. You're already spending it. The point is, can you fix it? So again, as I started with Stoic today, where do you go with it? Okay, you found the waste. Now what do you do with it? Do you make them pay it back? Do you cut this system off? No. So between the debt and the military, and then Social Security and Medicare, and then all the other freebies that you're giving out, you have this tremendously bad financial problem, terrible economics, and you think you can just keep printing money, and yet you're going to pay all this extra for the military, and you're fucked. And at one point it just collapses because you can't afford to keep paying them. You can't just keep printing money. You don't get the money in. You don't have the money to spend. You're trying to do treasuries, and I can hear the treasury talk now. Buy our treasuries, and we'll build you tanks and planes, which every country apparently needs. So there you go. Profit. Gruden had the Oakland playbook. Well, Gruden made the Oakland playbook. Gruden was the Oakland coach. He goes to Tampa. It was the Oakland coach who never changed the playbook. So he kept the same playbook that Gruden used. That's the problem. So yeah, it was Gruden's playbook, but the Oakland coach should have been changing the playbook. We can't use the same playbook against the team that designed the playbook. That'd be like Joe Montana going to Kansas City knowing the San Francisco playbook, and San Francisco doesn't change their plays against Joe Montana or Jerry Rice on Oakland or whatever. So that's the problem. So again, this is the problem with monopoly. You need competition. You can never, I'm going to paint your house for $1,000. Well, let me check the competition. There is no competition. And that's the problem. You must have competition, especially for something as expensive as this. I guarantee you could make it less. And I wouldn't do cost plus. I would say, here's your budget. You got $5 million. That's all I can afford. If you don't like it, I'll find somebody who can do it. And that's what government is, cost plus. I mean, this is what you're dealing with, Keynesians. Nobody in their right mind would do cost plus. What's going to be cost plus to paint my house? Well, my costs were a little bit more than I thought. It was $1,000. Plus now you owe me, 50%. So, it's $1,500 paint your house that most people would charge you $50 for. And that's the problem. That's why you need competition. It all comes back to Austrian economics, all this shit. You can't print the money to zero, can't do this. You've got to have competition and you've got to have a budget. This is what I can afford to do, not just build it and I'll just pay you. And how am I paying you? Oh, out of thin air. I'm just printing the money. And by the way, give me my kickback. And that's the other danger in it. You got people that are corrupt and they're taking a kickback instead of just concentrating on what's best for the country. They're concentrating on what's best for them. This is why the whole government's corrupt and collapsing in front of us, as this is what I'm warning you. And that's why we buy gold and silver, because it's all, and it's not just US, it's Canada, it's Britain, it's Germany, it's every country. They all have the kickback. They're all mostly socialist and everybody's fucked. And the ones who figured it out are Russia and China. Go figure that out. All right, a little bit more.
Would mean that just last year, almost $134 billion of government funding was just profit for private companies. So how is it that these companies can get away with spending so much of the government's money?
These contractors have a lot of power over the contracts because they're the only ones that can do it.
Monopoly.
General Dynamics are the only company that produces the Abrams tank. When the U.S. military wants to buy more Abrams tanks, they don't have to compete that contract. They always give it to General Dynamics. They are the.
Now, how fucked up is that? You got one company making a tank. So therefore, you don't have competition. Therefore, you've got to pay them whatever. I need the tanks. How about another tank? How about another company making tanks? This is what Clinton did. Clinton, it's a little later. Clinton's the one that took them all and made five. One guy makes the tanks, one guy makes airplanes, one guy makes boats, missiles, whatever. This is the joke. And how much money did Clinton make off of it? Oh yeah, a whole lot. This is the problem. You cannot have a monopoly. You can never have a monopoly, because that's what monopolies will do. They're bad. That's why JP Morgan has a monopoly on printing money and ice cream. And then he does comex. It's basically a monopoly where they price fix it. You can't get an alternate price, although that's coming now. China, Russia, and Saudi and Dubai are coming out with the precious metals exchanges, and they're going to come out with the physical price of gold. Now COMEX has competition. What did Trump say about BRICS? If you want to go in, you'll get if you want to come in, you'll get punished, you'll be tariffed. Well, that's competition. You should want competition. See, he doesn't want competition either. He's also like a JP Morgan. Even though you think Trump is aggressive and you think he's good, he's still a Keynesian, a monopolist, a nationalist. He doesn't want competition. He just wants the U.S. to build everything here, and that's it. The problem is we might buy everything. We don't sell shit, and we need competition. So we don't want to just buy steel from U.S. Steel and that competition. What do you think their prices will be? They'll make the military look like a joke. And who suffers? GM and Ford will go out of business. Nobody can buy a car because there won't be cars to sell. This is the problem with Keynesian and monopolies. All right.
General Dynamics would have no incentive to reduce or contain the cost of the Abrams tank if there's no one competing for that contract.
But
and it's
contractors
cost
didn't
plus.
always have so much power over the government. Back in the 80s, there were dozens of companies that would compete for defense projects. But in the 90s, the Clinton administration cut defense spending and facilitated a wave of mergers until there were just 5 major players. They argued this would make the industry more efficient and that outsourcing more work to contractors would save the government money.
We've got some good people coming out, some really good people.
But
So this guy's an idiot. We know Clinton's one of the dumbest people. And this is the problem. Should Clinton have been president? Is he qualified to be president? No, he's a fucking idiot. This is the problem. He makes this decision and it bankrupts the U.S. basically, because now our defense has cost 100 times more because you got rid of the. So he doesn't get, I can't get rid of the competition. Streamlining. What are you streamlining? You don't want streamline. You want competition. As soon as you get rid of the competition, oh, now we pay $2 trillion a year for defense spending. And we always want a war so they can keep working. This is insanity. I mean, we don't want war. We shouldn't want war, but we want money. And how much kickback did Clinton get for doing that, right? How much did the defense contractors pay him to get rid of their competition? Oh, I would imagine a lot. He's like worth $100 million. And his job paid 100,000. Where did he get the money from? The defense contractors. This is the problem with it. You cannot have monopoly. You must have competition. I know I'm hammering it, but this is what happens when you don't have it. And this is what happens when you have price fixing like in Venezuela. They price fix. So if you want to put a can of tuna on the shelf, you can only sell it for $2. Look, I'm trying to save everybody because our inflation's so massive. Nobody can make it for $2. I mean, here it's $4 for a can of tuna for the bigger can. So if it's $4, you can't say $2, then StarKist can't make it. And so they go out of business or they make smaller cans. But basically, Oreo cookies, you got to sell them for $1. Oreo, it takes us $2 to make them. We're not going to sell them. That's why the shelves are empty, because of this price fixing doesn't work. The market must set the prices. You must have competition, and it benefits the consumer. And that's what Austrian economics is all about, the consumer, not the producer. Keynesians is the producer. We'll have monopolies, but there's only one. There can be only one, like Highlander. There's only one guy that benefits. All the competition's gone. So, Raytheon benefited by Clinton, but all the others that were there had to go out of business. So it was a nightmare, and it continues to be a nightmare. And this is why the dollar's worthless, because they keep printing it, and you keep having this debt. You keep wanting to spend more than you make. Again, if you make $5,000 a month and you spend 10, you're going to have a $37 trillion budget debt that you can't get out of, because you don't have enough money to just live, more or less. So that's why we have deficits every year. How are you going to pay the debt off with deficits? Oh, Trump, well, we'll charge people $10 million to live if they want to move here. Well, what are you, out of your mind? Who wants to move here? I mean, this is crazy. All right.
the top 5 contractors took advantage of their monopoly power.
The big shift that has happened is that contractors are now providing more and more services, things that the military did used to do for itself.
He's realized that offering the government services, things like designing software or maintaining equipment, could mean decades of competition-free work at relatively high profit margins. And that's exactly what we've seen happen.
In setting up the contract for producing the F-35, they couple with that a lifetime service agreement. So Lockheed Martin is the only company for the remainder of the lifespan of that piece of equipment that can service that equipment. The military itself can't even service parts of the equipment because it's proprietary. So the military becomes vulnerable and dependent on this firm, and this firm has a complete monopoly.
In 1990, the DOD paid out $29 billion in service contracts, $67 billion when you adjust for inflation. By 2023, that number had grown to $166 billion.
Economically, the DOD has become dependent on this model. So the more that they've used contracts and contractors, the less expertise they have of their own and the less capability they have of their own to produce those same products or provide those same services.
Research going back over a decade suggests that you could save tens of billions of dollars a year by actually bringing core government functions, administrative functions, back inside rather than outsourcing them to service contractors.
It seems like this would be a simple fix, but there's a problem.
The arms industry has been incredibly successful at politically engineering weapon programs such that very few lawmakers in Congress are prepared to challenge them.
The defense industry strategically spreads out manufacturing across the country, making Congress members defend manufacturing things we might not even need because it keeps jobs in their district. The Big Five also make political donations to the congressional representatives who decide how much the DOD gets to spend every year.
The lobbyists.
All of this puts pressure on Congress to raise the defense budget.
This is an outstanding piece of legislation, and I strongly urge everybody to support it.
Even if it means continuing expensive projects, and even when the Department of Defense fails to pass an audit.
I'm proud to say the Republicans secured a 6% funding increase over last year's funding level.
If you go back to the very beginning, the DOD was stood up to defend this country. We are not interested necessarily in how well we account for our property as long as we win whatever that conflict might be. The American people are getting a little bit less and less supportive of that, especially when you see how quickly we can waste so much money.
Trump, along with Elon Musk, has made cutting government spending a hallmark of his second presidency.
I think he's going to find $1 trillion.
Yeah. We welcome Doge at DOD. We will partner with them, and it's long overdue. The Defense Department's got a huge budget, but it needs to be responsible.
But so far, Doge has focused on cutting federal employees and DEI programs.
Look at some of the initial things that we found in the Air Force. $1.9 million for holistic DEI transformation and training.
And they haven't touched anything related to the billions in spending on defense contractors.
So when you see Elon Musk or Doge going after the federal workforce, that is a fraction of the federal budget. And in many cases, not all cases, those federal employees carry out services much cheaper than private contractors do.
The Pentagon plans to cut up to 70,000 civilian employees. Senator Roger Wicker, the head of the Armed Services Committee, is advocating to reduce regulations on weapons contractors.
These rules and regulations and protections are there for a reason. And these government organizations aren't there to try and fuck people. They aren't there to make these rules just because it makes it harder. There's a reason that it's there.
The problem with Wicker is that he identifies issues correctly, but he comes to all the wrong conclusions because he has stakes in the game.
Wicker notably was the largest recipient of defense industry campaign contributions of any Senate candidate.
If you give these companies free reign without having these people overseeing them, what's to stop them from doing something like planned obsolescence on things like weapon systems or body armor, that just disintegrates after X amount of uses? It would definitely increase their profits because then they would have to keep going back and buying more. So if you open a little bit of door there, they will flood through and take as much as they can.
The sort of push to deregulate as means to increase efficiency is completely contrary to reality and history. And I just can't emphasize enough how bad of an idea it is to deregulate budgeting and acquisition. This will only improve contractors' ability to overcharge the military and the taxpayer.
Year after year, what has been found is something in the range of 30 to 40% of contract spending goes to waste, fraud, and abuse. So the first thing would be at least to reduce the services that are being provided by contractors, to have fewer opportunities for contract dollars to get misused because fewer of those dollars will be going to contractors.
If Trump's goal is to cut $1 trillion from the federal budget, defense spending on contractors is one of the best places to look. But reining in waste here would take an investment in government oversight, not cuts. And more fundamentally, it would require a shift away from the corporate interests that have captured lawmakers and the Pentagon for decades.
We know what the holes in the law are, but we will never truly understand the scope of the issue unless Congress changes their tune on military contracting. That would require many of them to turn away from the very industries that supports them in more than one way.
The amount of money that the executives make in profit all of that money is essentially taxpayer money that's been flowed out through the company and then just goes right into their pockets. That amount of money could go into social safety nets or be reinvested back into the industry, or even just given back to the taxpayer as tax cuts to working people.
If you're solely concerned about military readiness, as our Secretary of Defense claims to be, then you would look at what more spending, how that's actually impacted the acquisition process and military service members. And the answer is acquisition outcomes have been getting worse and worse. All it does is enrich military contractors and their executives and shareholders. Thanks for watching. Don't forget
You're
to like and
welcome. So this is the problem with corrupt government, the lobbyists, the monopolies, all rolled into one right here. This is why we have wars. This is why Russia and Ukraine are at war. They're at war because Raytheon wants to make money. We're at war because they pay, the lobbyists pay these guys all this money. And so they do whatever the lobbyist says because that's what they're making. Because they're not making money because they're producing a product or a service, like selling, making shoes, and everybody wants them or something. They're making money on kickbacks. The thing you need to get rid of is the lobbyist, but the lobbyist you never get rid of because they pay. If somebody paying me $1 million. I probably don't want to get rid of the lobbyist, right? Which gets back to why are these clowns in government who obviously don't care about themselves? They don't understand economics. If they did, they realize all the money printing that's going on. We don't have money we don't get enough tax dollars to pay all these defense contractors and the debt and Social Security and Medicare. Although we should have Social Security and Medicare, if I'm paying into it, I should be able to get my money back. So it behooves you that we've got bad government, and that's the flaw, and then monopolies, defense contractors, that's the other flaw, cost plus the budget, another flaw. The guy in charge from Mississippi is getting a big kickback from so it's all bribes and bailouts. I assume the mafia is involved. They're involved in all this money profiting thing. And this is the whole problem. So you have people that should not be there, have no business there, and this is the big problem. But see, the Keynesians don't realize that. Well, we just keep printing money, nothing can happen. And this is where I go as an entrepreneur. I go, no, you can't keep printing money. You're going to bankrupt us, which is what you're doing. You are bankrupting the U.S. with this bullshit, with the interest on the debt you can't get rid of. And here comes Trump. Oh, I'm going to tariff everybody 100% if they go to that. They don't have a choice. Your dollar is worthless. They don't want your dollar. Saudi Arabia is very clear. We're not going to go back to the petrodollar. We don't want it. Russia is very clear. We don't want the dollar. So is China. So they're all trading. So right now, and I'll show you this one. Russia and China are trading. China and Brazil are trading. India and Russia are trading. And Iran. They're all trading amongst themselves, not like I said before. So let's say I'm China and I want to buy Indian dollars. I have to sell my Chinese dollars for U.S. dollars, take the U.S. dollars to buy the Indian dollars. Well, they have cut that off. Now China goes back to India, and Russia goes back to India, and goes back to Brazil, and that now they don't need the dollar anymore. Now this is a trading currency, and this will all be done by gold. So what's Trump saying? Well, we'll tariff them. They won't be able to sell to us. Well, who do you think that hurts? Does it hurt China or does it hurt the U.S.? It hurts the U.S. if we don't have anything to buy. But wait a minute, there's no products here because you fucked up everybody. All the goods we get from China and Mexico, we can't get anymore. The U.S. can't make them because they don't have. There's certain things like Canada's got a lot of diamonds. Russia's got a lot of diamonds and gold and silver. And if you can't get them from them, where are you going to get them? Oh, we can't get them. We don't have it. And so there's things that we can't make in the U.S. that are made in other countries. China's got a lot of spices. I remember furs from Canada and Russia. Spain has stuff. Britain has stuff. Portugal, all these, that's the whole trade, right? And you need free trade because you want items that they have. But if Trump wants to tariff everybody, now we already talked about it. What China's doing is setting up offices in Vietnam and also in Brazil. So now we'll get the goods from Vietnam and Brazil instead of from China, and we'll be okay, and your tariffs won't work because they're not going to be selling to you. Here's a quick thing on Chinese women flood nightclubs because they're unable to find jobs.
Are you looking for real financial advice?
No.
Norton Financial is here to help. Certified financial.
Worked in nightclub.
大家好，我就是那个被行业淘汰。
Hi everyone, I'm the nearly 40-year-old model who's been pushed out of the industry and now delivers food to help make ends meet. I've been at this for 2 days, and my biggest challenges are getting lost and worrying about being late with deliveries. I'm always in a rush, and this cold weather is brutal. My face feels like it's about to crack. After just a few deliveries, I've had to find a place to warm up, but there's no other way. I have to push through. Let's go, time to get moving. A model close to 40, facing industry decline, has taken up part-time food delivery. She's been sharing videos of her experiences online, drawing a lot of attention. On March 4th, she shared how she's been getting through 2025 by delivering food and maintaining a positive outlook on life, earning praise from viewers.
很多人认为我不是真的在送外卖。
Many people don't believe I'm actually delivering food, so I want to explain my thoughts today. The job market isn't great right now, and as everyone knows, modeling is profession that depends on youth. I'm almost
okay, so we don't really care about that, but what we care about is there's a crisis and job crisis in China. So everybody thinks the Chinese economy is great. It's not. It's terrible. The rubles, the Chinese yuan is inflated like ours. Their military is also fucked up. People don't have jobs, and they're all moving to Vietnam because of the sanctions. So again, that's how you get away from sanctions. You move to a different country where they're not being sanctioned. So China's going broke, but they have 60,000 tons of gold. All right, let's go to BRICS. All right, we're gonna look at BRICS.
Lateral trade and sidestep Western.
And if the BRICS nations want to do that, that's okay, but we're going to put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States. You know what the BRICS is, right?
President Trump has issued a forceful warning to the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, urging them to make explicit, unequivocal commitments to prevent the emergence of any currency that could rival the US dollar. Speaking at a campaign rally in Ohio on March 8th, 2025, Trump roared, "I'm telling BRICS right now, don't even think about messing with the dollar. It's the backbone of the world economy, and I'll hit you with 100% tariffs if you try. You'll be locked out of America." Done. He reaffirmed his
Okay, so first of all, they're not messing with the dollar. They're merely putting out a competitive currency. All countries have currencies, right? Canadian dollar, British pound. All they're doing is they want to trade without the dollar because the dollar, first of all, Russia can't. China's got sanctions. So a lot of these countries are sanctioned by the U.S. They don't want to work with the U.S. Makes sense. So Trump's not thinking competitively. He's trying to do monopoly. Well, if they compete with us, but they're not competing. They're coming out with this currency. You have your currency. Let's see who wants what. And I'm standing in the BRICS line. I want a gold-backed currency, not a piece of shit U.S. dollar monopoly, a monopoly money, right? But what kind of leader is this? Oh, if they do that, we'll do that. You're crazy. So it's really insane. This guy, no business, not a leader. And then all he does is threaten, we're going to tariff you or sanction you. What is that? That's not good business. I don't know. It's crazy.
Wavering dedication to maintaining the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, a position it has held for over 8 decades, and emphasized that severe economic sanctions would be imposed on any nation daring to challenge its dominance. Late last year, in a pointed statement broadcast live from Mar-a-Lago on December 15th, 2024, Trump declared there is no chance at all, 2024, Trump declared there is no chance at all, that the BRICS bloc will replace the US dollar in international trade or anywhere else. They're dreaming if they think they can pull it off. He added a stark warning. Any country that tries to ditch the dollar should say hello to tariffs and goodbye to doing business with America. I mean it, goodbye. This rhetoric has sparked intense debate, with social media platforms like X reflecting polarized views as of March 13th, 2025. Earlier this year, Trump doubled down on his stance in a Truth Social thread on January 20th, 2025, writing, "The BRICS jokers think they can undermine the greatest currency in history? Not while I'm here. I'm demanding a clear promise. No rival currencies, or they face 100% tariffs and get totally cut off from our massive market. They'll come crawling back, believe me." He stressed that defiance would lead to economic isolation, a message.
This is why they're doing it, because he's a bully and he's saying, if you don't do what we tell you, we're going to do this. That's why they're coming out with BRICS in the first place. That's why there's 20 countries in BRICS, going to be 100 countries in BRICS. And they all need gold. And that's where we go, yeah, gold demand is huge. That's going to blow up comex. Our gold will go up. So we're taking advantage by being intelligent. We're seeing what's happening, and how do we, so we see the problem, how do we solve it? The problem is the U.S. prints money like it's water and it's worthless, and here's the BRICS, and they're all buying gold. So what do? We jump and buy as much gold and silver as we can, and we'll just go along with the flow, which is going BRICS and that, because you got idiots like this guy saying, well, we're going to punish them for doing it. Well, then you got to compete, fella. Back your money by gold. Start competing. You're not competing. Why aren't you competing? And this is the problem. So anyway, it's perfectly right for Russia and China and BRICS to have their own currency. What do you want them to use? They can't use the dollar. You're sanctioning Russia. What is Russia supposed to use? Oh, well, we don't care. They can't use anything. No, they're just competing. They're not replacing. But he can't understand that concept. All right.
He's repeated consistently since his re-election campaign gained momentum. Despite these warnings, Brazil, currently leading the BRICS bloc, is forging ahead with ambitious reforms aimed at reducing reliance on the US dollar. These efforts center on facilitating cross-border payments in local currencies, with the explicit goal of fostering financial autonomy and slashing transaction costs in global trade. Brazil's strategy hinges on leveraging cutting-edge technologies like blockchain and enhancing linkages between national payment systems, drawing inspiration from its wildly successful Pix instant payment system. Launched in November 2020 by Brazil's central bank, Pix has transformed domestic finance, overtaking cash, credit, and debit cards as the preferred payment method. By February 2025, Pix processed over 4 billion transactions monthly, with 85% of Brazilian adults using it regularly, according to official statistics. Brazil's central bank reports that Pix has reduced transaction costs by 70% compared to traditional methods, offering a model for international scalability. Brazil has also rolled out the SML payment system for trade with Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay, enabling direct settlements in Brazilian reais and bypassing the US dollar entirely. While the system currently requires 3 to 5 business days to process transactions, a delay attributed to manual clearing processes, there's widespread optimism that integrating instant payment technologies like Pix could streamline it into a near instantaneous process, making it faster, more secure, and far more cost-effective.
All right, we don't know what this Pix is. We can't believe what this guy's saying. It's more that we can't believe they're doing manual processing. We can't believe it's going to do anything. So a lot of this, I don't necessarily buy. I think you need a gold-backed currency. Why would you not use credit card and debit cards? Makes zero sense to me. So they have a different system, but it's wildly successful. They don't tell you that Brazil's dollar is heavily inflated. And so people don't want to use it. So they're using whatever this PIX system is, which I can look into, later, but I don't know what it is. And I've not heard that it's wildly successful. So again, this guy, you can't really trust. You don't know who he is and what he's talking about in Brazil. But again, blockchain, I think blockchain's slower because somebody's got to check it and go, does Bill have money to buy this? And I think that's a waste of time. I don't know what's wrong with a credit card or debit card where you just buy it. What's your total? What's your credit? Fine. There's nothing wrong. The best way is the credit debit card system where I go to the grocery store, $100, boom. Do I have $100 available in my line of credit? Yes. Here you go. Next. And that way it's very simple. So I don't know why they would get away from that, but I don't know what PIX really is.
Researchers at the University of Sao Paulo estimate that full adoption of instant payment tech could cut regional trade costs by an additional 30%, further incentivizing dollar-free transactions. Later this month, BRICS representatives are slated to convene in Cape Town, South Africa, on the sidelines of the G20 meetings scheduled for March 25th to 27th, 2025. Brazil plans to unveil a detailed roadmap for its July BRICS Summit, where these payment innovations will take center stage. The bloc has recently expanded, welcoming Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates as full members in January 2025, a move that bolsters its economic clout and amplifies its challenge to the dollar-centric financial order. President Trump's recent remarks reflect mounting concern over challenges to this dollar supremacy, particularly as BRICS nations explore alternative currencies and payment systems with increasing boldness. If these efforts succeed, the consequences could be profound. Diminished demand for U.S. treasuries, which fund America's $34 trillion national debt. Higher borrowing costs, as investors demand greater returns to offset perceived risk. And a weakened geopolitical influence as nations grow less dependent on dollar-based systems like SWIFT, the Belgium-based messaging network that processes over 40 million transactions daily. Economists at the Peterson Institute for International Economics warn that a 20% drop in global dollar demand could raise U.S. interest rates by 1 to 2%, adding billions to annual debt servicing costs. Brazil's reforms, including SML and the PIX-inspired vision for global trade, have drawn significant attention. Trump's warnings have only intensified as BRICS accelerates its efforts. In early 2023, China and Brazil, the bloc's economic...
Ready to invest like a pro? With
Hate these
Legend,
commercials.
you can quickly build custom layouts.
Always
that
at the
make it
wrong
real
time.
China and Brazil, the bloc's economic heavyweights, struck a landmark deal to conduct trade in Chinese yuan and Brazilian reais, eliminating the dollar as an intermediary. With bilateral trade reaching approximately $150 billion in 2022, China being Brazil's top trading partner, importing soybeans, iron ore, and beef. This shift streamlines transactions, reduces exchange rate fluctuations, and cuts conversion costs by an estimated 15%, according to Brazil's Ministry of Economy.
So what happens is China sells stuff to Brazil, who then sells it to the U.S. because there's no tariffs on Brazil, only on China. So China goes to Vietnam, China goes to Brazil, sells the goods to the U.S. with no tariffs. That's how you get away from the tariffs. Mexico will probably do the same thing. And then Canada will deal with Finland and Sweden they'll start selling their goods and services, and Trump's tariffs probably won't even have any effect. Where we think it's going to cause this big recession, well, we're already in a recession. Causes big depression. I don't think it will, because that was the whole world. This is just now Vietnam selling us and Brazil selling us, not China and Mexico, and therefore we're not going to get any money from tariffs, but we'll still get the goods and services that we need from other countries. And Trump's not smart enough to figure that out. Okay.
Iran and Russia have made equally significant strides, integrating their financial systems to enhance bilateral trade and sidestep Western sanctions. By March 2025, they had connected their national payment networks, Russia's Mir and Iran's Shah, allowing mutual acceptance of each other's bank cards. In July 2024, Iran's central bank announced the integration of Shah with Russia's Mir system, enabling Russian tourists and businesses to use Mir cards in Iran, simplifying transactions and boosting commerce. By November 2024, this deepened further, currencies. This arrangement bypasses dollar-based payment systems, shielding both nations from external economic pressures and saving an estimated $2 billion annually in currency conversion fees per India's Ministry of Commerce. South Africa, another BRICS member, has increasingly favored settling transactions in its rand. China, its largest trade partner with bilateral trade exceeding $50 billion in 2023, has agreed to settle certain imports, like machinery and electronics, in yuan, reducing dollar reliance and boosting liquidity in African markets. The BRICS Pay platform officially launched at the 16th BRICS Summit in Kazan, Russia on October 22nd, 2024, epitomizes this shift. Built on blockchain technology, BRICS Pay enables smooth cross-border transactions in local currencies, reducing dependence on Western-dominated financial networks like SWIFT. The initiative, first proposed by the BRICS Business Council in 2018, integrates existing national payment infrastructures, Russia's MIR, India's Unified Payments Interface, and China's UnionPay, into a decentralized system that simplifies currency conversions and slashes transaction costs by up to 25%, according to early pilot data. The system's architecture combines centralized domestic operations with a decentralized international framework, ensuring regulatory compliance while offering technological flexibility. Blockchain's distributed ledger ensures immutable transaction records, supports smart contracts for automatic currency conversions, and enables real-time settlements, features that position BRICS Pay as a credible alternative to conventional platforms. The platform's scalability allows it to handle growing transaction volumes and incorporate new members, like the recent BRICS additions, without sacrificing efficiency. Interoperability between systems like UPI, which processes 10 billion transactions monthly in India, and MIR ensures seamless cross-border flows, optimizing liquidity in local currencies. By promoting these currencies in international trade, BRICS Pay aims to erode the dollar's dominance and foster a multipolar financial order. Beyond payment systems, BRICS nations have embarked on a massive gold accumulation strategy to bolster their financial defenses. By the close of Quarter 2 2024, the bloc had amassed approximately 6,200 tons of gold, 21.4% of global reserves. Russia leads with 2,340 tons, 8.1% of global holdings, followed closely by China with 2,260 tons, 7.
See, here's where it loses me. All right, Russia's got 30,000 tons. China's got 60,000 tons, plus their civilians own another 20,000 tons. India's got 30,000 tons, and this idiot's talking about 2,000 tons. What the fuck's he talking about? He's only talking central banks, but the shadow banks and these other banks and Putin's swimming pool are where the gold's at, which does not include the central bank stuff. Right? So it's central bank plus shadow banks plus Putin's pool plus Xi's pool. That's where, so they're not even close with talking. That's where I kind of lose this guy. I'm gonna make a comment now. So there's my comment. China 60,000 tons of gold, Russia 25, India 30. Tell the truth, the professor. So we'll finish it, but now the guy doesn't know what he's doing. Plus, I don't get the whole blockchain thing. Blockchain's just the ledger. It slows down things. If you gotta look at it, just use the fucking credit cards. I don't get that either.
8%. Brazil has nearly tripled its reserves since 2018, reaching 350 tons by early 2025, signaling a robust effort to shield its economy from dollar volatility. India and South Africa have also increased their holdings, with India at 850 tons and South Africa
30,000, and South Africa is probably close.
Reflects a broader goal to reduce dependence on the U.S. dollar, diversify monetary assets, and enhance independence in policymaking. Gold serves as a hedge against external risks, ensuring BRICS economies can weather global fluctuations and crises. Trump's response has been unrelenting. On Truth Social, he posted on March 11th, 2025, BRICS thinks they're slick with their gold piles and fancy payment toys. I'll make it so painful to dump the dollar, they'll wish they never tried. His campaign has floated aggressive countermeasures, including export restrictions, designating offending nations as currency manipulators, and imposing punitive trade tariffs. Reports from insiders suggest Trump's team is evaluating strategies to penalize nations engaging in bilateral trade outside the dollar, with proposals ranging from restricting exports of critical goods like semiconductors to levying additional duties of up to 25% on BRICS exports. Throughout his campaign, Trump has vowed to make it financially unfeasible for any nation to abandon the dollar, a pledge he reiterated in a Fox News interview on March 9th, 2025. The dollar's our strength. BRICS wants to take that away. They'll pay a price they can't afford.
Except they have gold, so what's he talking about?
Hello， 大家好，我就是那个。
That's why you have gold, because that keeps it. So Trump, I don't think he understands. The dollar isn't worth anything. Everybody's ignoring that fact. The dollar has no value. Gold does. It's quite simple. And yet he wants to keep bullying and threatening, which is not what a good coach would do. You want people to trade with you, and yet what is he doing? He wants nobody to trade with him. The dollar is not going anywhere. You're just simply printing it to death. You're printing it to zero, and all they're doing is saying, we'll have a gold-backed currency, which never fails. Now, you're too stupid to have a gold-backed currency because you sold all the gold in your Fort Knox. That's up to you. I'm breaking up, Professor. Am I there now, Prophet? Am I still here? Well, let me see. I don't see it on this end. Am I still here? Am I still here? Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah, okay. So then there's the Belt and Road Initiative. Where is that?
Political tensions and growing resistance. So, what if I told you that China
This
has
is the
spent
Belt
more
and
on
Road
infrastructure
problem.
abroad than the United States did on the Marshall Plan? Over $1 trillion. The Belt and Road Initiative, the largest infrastructure project in human history, was supposed to reshape global trade. Highways cutting through mountains, railways linking continents, ports transforming sleepy coastlines into global trade hubs. A total of 148 countries signed on, eager to share in the promise of economic transformation. But now, the cracks are showing. Half-finished mega projects, skyrocketing debt, protests from communities left behind. What was once hailed as China's grand vision for the future is now tangled in financial crises, political tensions, and growing resistance. So, what went wrong? How did China's ambitious megaproject, once hailed as the future of global infrastructure, start falling apart? And more importantly, can Beijing still save it?
So
to answer that,
the Belt and Road Initiative is to connect like thousands of miles between different countries, Asia and Africa and things like that. So they would have a railway and they would have highways and they would be able to build things. And that's China's initiative. But the problem is they're heavily in debt with it. They're not finishing the projects that they start. They just don't have enough money. All the inflation coming in is making it very difficult. So this is the problem. We'll listen to a few minutes of it, but that's basically the problem. Let's see who's talking to me, and it is, who are these people? I mean, what is this? I get a text. Hello. What is that? Hello, what? Who are you? Probably some point of a scam or something. All right, just a couple more minutes of this Belt and Road.
To answer that, we need to go back to the beginning, to the moment China set out to build a new Silk Road for the modern world. In 2013, China unveiled the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, a massive plan to link the world through infrastructure, railways slicing across continents, highways bridging distant economies, deep-sea ports transforming isolated coastlines into bustling trade hubs, power plants, pipelines, fiber optic networks, everything a country could need to fuel its economic growth. And China? It had the money, the technology, and the drive to make it happen. The strategy was built around two main routes: the Silk Road economic belt, tracing the footsteps of ancient traders weaving through Central Asia and Europe, and the Maritime Silk Road, a vast seaborne network stretching through Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Together, these routes formed an intricate web, one designed to reshape global commerce and cement China's role as an economic superpower. But this was about more than just roads and ports. The BRI aimed to open new markets for Chinese goods, secure access to vital raw materials, and integrate entire economies into China's supply chains. Beijing pitched it as a win-win deal, offering loans, investments, and partnerships to nations looking for a fast track to development. The timing couldn't have been better. Across the developing world, countries desperately needed new infrastructure but couldn't secure the funding. Western banks saw too much risk. China saw an opportunity. With trillions of dollars at its disposal, the Belt and Road Initiative promised a new era of global connectivity. At first, the results spoke for themselves.
Hello, beautiful. What's your name?
At first, the results spoke for themselves. High-speed rail lines slashed travel times across Southeast Asia, supercharging trade. Modern ports in Africa and the Middle East transformed once overlooked regions into major shipping hubs. In Pakistan, roads, highways, and power plants were reshaping entire provinces, easing energy shortages and unlocking new economic possibilities. The scale was staggering. By 2017, the Belt and Road Initiative had expanded to more than 140 countries, touching nearly 75% of the world's population. The World Bank projected that trade flows in participating nations could rise by over 4%. Some analysts even predicted the initiative could inject a jaw-dropping $7 trillion into global GDP by 2040. It looked unstoppable. But beneath the surface, cracks were already forming. Unfinished projects, debt piling up at alarming rates, allegations of corruption. At first, the warning signs were subtle, easy to dismiss. Now, they're impossible to ignore. So, where did it all go wrong? For many countries that eagerly joined China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, the financial strain is becoming unbearable. Sri Lanka, Zambia, and Pakistan are among the hardest hit. Take Sri Lanka, for example. The country poured billions into infrastructure,
They have mass
expecting
inflation
prosperity
there.
in return. Instead, when the debt became too much to handle, it had no choice but to lease its Hambantota port to China for 99 years, fueling accusations of debt trap diplomacy. Zambia is another cautionary tale. Drowning in debt to Chinese lenders, it found itself in a financial stranglehold, forced into restructuring deals that left little room for economic recovery. And then there's Pakistan, where the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, was supposed to be a game changer. Instead, rising interest payments and growing dependency on Chinese capital have only tightened the economic squeeze.
So Sri Lanka and Pakistan are bankrupt. They're heavy inflationary. So China didn't count on that it's too expensive for these countries. So they get the countries printed to pay China back, but that inflated their dollar more. The other thing the other thing I want to talk about is we were talking about BRICS just in the video before, was the FX rates. So how do you know what the FX rate is between China and Brazil? You don't, because it's set by the U.S. It's not set. There's no like, this is what your FX rate is versus this, and it's real. It's price fixed. It's just a number pulled out of the air. So you don't know if you're getting good or bad dollars. That's why you need gold. Because if you deal with China, their dollar's not worth anything. And neither is Brazil or Argentina. A lot of these countries, their dollar's worthless because they're not backed by gold. So you got to be careful doing that BRICS trading in common currencies and then picking up the FX rate to think you're getting what you're getting. If I was dealing in any of those, I would only take gold, or I would convert them to gold as quickly as possible. I don't want to be in their dollars. Anyway, so that's what's happening with this Belt and Road. It's too expensive. These countries can't afford it. And now China has lost a lot of money because they can't get paid. So they're raising interest rates. Yeah, okay, so I'll print more money. And that's why you see the inflation. Again, they don't get, if you keep printing the money, it's worthless. Sri Lanka, bankrupt. Pakistan, bankrupt. China, bankrupt. Brazil, bankrupt. They're all bankrupt because they keep printing money, and that ends out where we are. So Trump's sitting there with the U.S. dollar, and it's worthless. Nobody wants it. But he somehow thinks because it's the U.S. dollar that it's worth something, which, the guy's living in a fantasy land. Well, I'm going to tariff you if you get off the dollar. Well, give me one incentive to be on the dollar, because I'm in America and I don't want to be on the dollar. I've emptied my accounts and bought gold and silver with it. I don't want anything to do with the dollar. I have very few of them, just enough to pay so I don't have to sell my gold. If I'm a different country, why would I want dollars? It's worthless. But Trump can't see that. We're going to cut government waste. You're not cutting government waste. You'll never get rid of the defense contractors. You'll never get rid of the interest on the debt, Social Security, Medicare. So that's causes you to go over budget anyway. So you're never going to get rid of that shit. But what the hell are you talking about? But he sounds good. He sounds like some crazy man. All right, one more minute of this and we'll go to Andy Scheckman.
So was this all part of the plan? Critics argue that China knew exactly what it was doing, lending vast sums to nations already at high risk of default, ensuring leverage when they inevitably struggled. Supporters, on the other hand, say the issue isn't China's lending practices, but poor financial planning by the recipient countries. Regardless of intent, the result is clear: economic distress, rising inflation, and social unrest. Beyond financial strain, many BRI projects face another harsh reality: delays, mismanagement, and outright failure. Look at Pakistan's Gwadar port, once envisioned as a world-class trade hub. Instead of bustling with international commerce, it's now a focal point of protests over local disenfranchisement and economic mismanagement. In Malaysia, the East Coast Rail Link, a multi-billion-dollar railway meant to transform the country's infrastructure, was suspended over cost concerns before eventually being renegotiated. Myanmar's Chowk Phu deep sea port scaled back due to fears of an unstable debt burden. And in Montenegro, a highway project funded by Chinese loans stalled midway, leaving the country grappling with massive debt for an unfinished road. These aren't isolated failures. Across Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, nations are rethinking their involvement in these ambitious ventures. The grand promises of economic transformation are now clashing with the hard truths of mismanagement, corruption, and shifting political landscapes.
Welcome to China and communism. So that is the problem. They're promising there's a little carrot, but they don't deliver it. mismanagement, too much. It's too expensive. I got to print money and I'm inflated. And the bottom line is nobody has gold. All right. I think that's good. Let's look at Andy Scheckman. God knows what he's talking about.
If you've been trading for at least 3 months but are still not profitable, I'm about to tell you why. You see, after trading for 7
Nobody cares.
It will, because after what the Bank of International Settlements did to the BRICS at the 12th hour, pulling out of Enbridge after it was fully
I don't know. He says gold standard 2.0 is a lie. Well, we know that. But what is he talking about?
Behind the development of Enbridge, along with China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and Arab Emirates, for 4 years. And at the 12th hour, as the meeting in Kazan was taking place, you have Gustas Karstens, the head of the BIS, guy who's on his way out.
That looks like a balloon.
So we can't really be part of any program that is in association with countries that are being sanctioned by the West. It's as if he just realized that Russia was the R in BRICS. And I think you will see, to Trump's point, far less transparency in what the BRICS are doing. They just welcomed in Indonesia into the fold as a full member, the largest nickel deposit in the world. We saw just this weekend Iran, Russia, and China doing joint naval exercises, but they will not be as open as they have been in the past, I think, because they see what the West plan is. And when you talk about tariffs, 150%, those aren't tariffs, those are sanctions masquerading as tariffs. The BRICS, for quite some time, have not really tried to create a common currency, but rather a common settlement currency, which is very different. The whole plan was to trade in local currencies and then settle in gold, but they came up with a common settlement currency called the unit. And Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil, the head of the New Development Bank, BRICS New Development Bank, did say this, that in principle they've agreed to a new settlement currency called the unit, 40% gold backed, deliverable by two central banks upon demand, 60% local currency. So I think it's the wrong move. I think it will only accelerate the BRICS, and I think it will only make them keep their cards closer to the vest.
Chest.
Look, no one wants to mess with Donald Trump or the West in terms of retaliatory measures like sanctions, like tariffs masquerading as sanctions and being cut off from the U.S. market. But at the same time, I think they will continue. And I think this exemplifies why these countries have sort of, I think, found safety in numbers, if you will, because of the Western hegemony and this type of behavior where, like, we're a country that is literally insolvent. We're we talk about the 36 trillion in debt, but what about the 175 trillion in unfunded liability? We're a country that was 28 trillion in treasuries coming due. By 2028, we'll only take in 15 trillion in tax revenue. Where does all that come from, if not for countries continuing to want to hold our U.S. treasuries, which have been pretty poorly performing over the last year or two, especially as rates move higher? I think it's the wrong move, honestly, and I think it will have negative reverberations over the next 4 years. I guess we'll have to see. Xi Jinping and Putin and OPEC, and how could they do this? Saudi Arabia, how could they do this? But certainly, incentivizing this villainous act would be one way to do it. Look, I mean, I think Trump understands that a reset is in order, and you can fall on the sword, you can inflate, you can default, or you can find a villain. And this just, in my mind, accelerates de-dollarization, but done so in a much more covert manner. And we've seen that. We've seen the acceleration of accumulation of gold and other commodities. But net, since 2014, the central banks of the world have been sellers of U.S. treasuries. That hasn't stopped. And they've been replacing it with things like gold, because gold has doubled the performance of the 10-year treasury with no counterparty risk, with no sanction risk. Look at last year. Gold was up 40%.
You can't inflate it,
Treasuries were
chucklehead.
up 4.5%. And you have inflation, you have default risk, you have sanction risk. And why would any of these countries, why would a country like Saudi Arabia want to pull oil out of the ground with sweat and effort and labor and sell it to us for dollars when we can, with a keystroke during the pandemic, create 9 trillion of them? And why would they want to reinvest any of their excess into treasuries when we can, with a keystroke, create all of those dollars and then buy treasuries with it? It's a rigged game, and I think the rest of the world understands that. And that's why when you look at Judy Shelton, and she is advocating for 50-year treasuries, redeemable in gold. Maybe she understands that the treasury market is something that has lost, I think, appeal to much of the world, and it's no longer about trust us. This will be just fine, and more along the lines of we need.
Well, nobody's going to get paid for it. Would you take out a loan from somebody who's $37 trillion in debt and expect to get paid back? So I don't know what this 50-year treasury backed by gold. It sounds stupid to me. Why would I buy one? Who knows what's going to happen in 50 years, but certainly you're not going to have dollars. We know the dollar's gone probably in a year. We don't have an exact time, but we know within a year it's probably gone. So why would I want to buy treasuries that you can't pay back on? Redeemable in gold. I'll buy gold. Thank you very much. I mean, do you have the gold? Oh, you don't have gold in Fort Knox. So how the fuck can you make a claim you're going to back it by gold when you don't have the gold to back it? Nobody's going to trust these idiots.
See something behind it, standing behind it, rather than just your ability with a keystroke, which many would argue is immoral. I mean, there was no effort taken to create that wealth, but to be able to touch a keyboard. I think there's a lot.
That's why you don't have monopolies.
Who are reevaluating the value found in U.S. treasuries.
That's why you don't have monopolies. If we're the only ones, J.P. Morgan is the only one that can print the money. That's what happens. But if he has competition, he can't do that. That's why you always want competition. It markets. It's Say's law. It's the invisible hand. Coke and Pepsi will regulate themselves. We don't need regulation. Whatever Coke does, Pepsi will try to do it better and cheaper, and Coke and 7-Up. You do not need to regulate the soft drink industry. It regulates itself. Get the fuck out of the way.
They're not what they once used to be. And at the current rates we're at right now, roughly 4%, he doesn't want to refinance at 4%. So they want to bring down rates, and the way they do that is to bring down the dollar, bring down the stock market so that the Fed comes in and lowers rates. And to scare people into leaving equities into buying treasuries, which will lower rates, allow the refinancing of this to be much easier, a weaker dollar. These are all things that you want, and maybe it's a form of incentivizing, and then you bring back your manufacturing, and I think there is no other way to get to the other side than to deal with this edifice of debt that we've built based upon suppression of interest rates for 2 decades that have created huge distortions in asset prices, misallocations in resources and capital. And there is no way around it without having to pay that price, whether it be by default, hyperinflation, or finding a villain, or revaluing gold. Head of the Dutch National Bank, the members of the Bundesbank are all calling for gold to be revalued. After all, it's held in the gold revaluation account. That is one angle as well. And with what's happening on COMEX and the LBMA, that could be a possibility. But yes, I look at the moves that are being made, both in Europe and globally, and it is as if he is incentivizing this type of controlled demolition, a reset. And what better person to do it than the person who supposedly understands bankruptcy and reorganization better than anyone? I think it would be universally agreed upon that we are at such a point when you understand 1 trillion seconds ago was 31,688 years ago, and we've been accumulating debt at the tune of $100,000 a second, or $1 trillion every 100 days, which took 200 years to do the first time. We are so far indebted, so far past that Rubicon, that it will take things that are shock and awe. It will take very drastic measures to address this. And maybe this is.
So what he just said is we're bankrupt. So if you're bankrupt, what do? You don't want to hold those dollars, and you want to get out of the dollars into gold and silver. That's why we do it. Why did we choose gold and silver? You can't inflate gold and silver because you can't print it, because it's gold and silver. You got to dig it out of the ground, and it's all gone. That's why we do what we do. But we are bankrupt, the U.S. Nobody will tell you that except for me. I got balls.
To first step in that journey. Every $4,000 increase in the price of gold would give the Treasury General account $1 trillion free and clear. And it's not so far outlandish to think that it could happen. Over my shoulder, you have Roosevelt there. His first act in office in April of 33 was to confiscate gold. That's pretty good. You know, we're making a lot of money on this deal, but then he devalued the dollar immediately by 40%, revaluing gold by 40%. When Nixon closed the gold window in 1971, he then revalued at $35 an ounce, which is, by the way, what it is on every Western central bank balance sheet to this day, except in the United States, it's 42.22, because in 72 he revalued gold from 35 to 38, and then in 73 from 38 to 42.22, and the market has done the rest to revalue it to where it is now. It's held in the gold revaluation account. That's the name of it. You can't make it up on every central bank balance sheet. And as I was saying, the head of the Dutch National Bank for 2 years has been saying we need to revalue gold, at least market to market, to offset our liabilities, as have members of the Bundesbank, as has Cynthia Loomis in a effort to fund the strategic Bitcoin account. And then you got guys like James Rickards, who says, look, $24,000 an ounce gold, and he comes to that by using a 40% gold backing and M1 numbers, dividing it into the number of ounces of gold that we supposedly hold.
Which we don't.
At Fort Knox and the Fed and the Denver and New York Mint. And he comes up with $24,000 an ounce, which would add $6 trillion free and clear to the Treasury General account, which would be able to start to work down our debt and inspire confidence. And to Judy's point, start backing treasuries redeemable in gold and 50-year treasuries with a very, very low, if not a zero coupon. These are the kind of moves
we don't have gold
have to make in an effort to do this. Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb, and I'm not saying that this will happen at all, but you know, you want to talk craziness, revalue gold to $142,000 an ounce, and the debt is offset immediately with your assets. Liabilities but that doesn't take into account the unfunded liabilities, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, but the balance sheet. Could it be done? Sure. The U.S. Treasury says we'll pay $142,000 for everyone that wants to sell their gold. Every country that would like to deliver it to the U.S. Treasury. Is it pie in the sky? Sure. Could it happen? Why not? With Bitcoin at 100,000, why couldn't gold? All the central banks have been accumulating it hand over fist. And when you see what is happening right now on the LBMA, which is in essence in default, in my opinion, and the amount of gold that has been shifted, over 20 million ounces since November of last year, have come into the United States. We've become a net importer of gold. Largest deliveries we've ever seen in the history of the COMEX coming to the gold ever in the February contract, almost 6 million ounces. JP Morgan delivered.
That's because it's the first time we're actually going to pay the derivatives. He doesn't tell you that part of it. Now he's just bullshitting. We really wanted to know gold standard 2.0. So basically the function is to look at gold, is to understand the gold back currencies, because you have to. All right, let's take a look. Gold will come on tonight. Again, it's 29.89, I believe. So we did hit 3,000 on Friday. Let's take a look at, actually, we were looking at, for the draft, I went over the quarterbacks and running backs yesterday. Let's look at receivers today. So if I look at the top 10 receivers by, I guess we can look at yards. Harold Phantom is from Bowling Green. Let's look where Prime Jr., the guy on Prime Jr.'s team is. Travis Hunter, he's 1258. Fannin was 1558. Nick Nass from San Jose State, 1382. This McMillan, I see somebody's saying McMillan in the 10th. He only got 1,300 yards and only 8 touchdowns. I don't think he's that strong. Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State was a freshman, Travis Hunter, 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. How could his longest, this makes no sense, his longest receiving touchdown be 109 yards? It doesn't make sense. Here, Jeremiah Smith, 126 yards. Yeah, I think there's something wrong with that one. Supposedly the longest catch. Well, it can't be more than 99 yards. Tyler Warren from Penn State, the tight end, 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. Coleman Owen from Ohio, 1,200 yards. Kyle Williams, Washington State, 1,200 yards. 2 from Iowa State, Jalen Nolan and Jaden Higgins, 1,200 yards. I'll tell you that Rocco Beck's pretty good. Xavier Restrepo from Miami, 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. I don't know. A lot of Corey Rucker, Arkansas State, I believe, Fresno. So some more of these little colleges. So Harold Fannin from Bowling Green's probably the top guy. All right, let's look and see if there's any free agencies going on since yesterday. Why Cam Ward is much more than a top quarterback of a weak class. He's not much more. He's not a first pick. He's not a first rounder. Aaron Rodgers, so nothing new. Aaron Rodgers, is he feeling Minnesota? We don't know. Richardson and Jones, same thing. Will Patriots quarterback move open trade market for this intriguing project? That's Milton. Milton stinks. Chase, so really nothing new that happened yesterday. Free agent updates, potential. Aaron Rodgers, Vikings gaining steam. Ravens add Cooper Rush to back up Lamar Jackson. Now Cooper Rush is a better quarterback than Lamar. So Rush finally leaves Dallas. Dallas is in big trouble because Dak's terrible. With Cowboys playing 12 games last season, in place of injured Dak Prescott, Rush threw for 1,800 yards and 12 touchdowns. Pretty good. So Lamar's got a little competition there. The guy's much better. Vikings get running back Jordan Mason and trade with the 49ers. I don't know. The guy's 790 yards. Big deal. I don't get that one. Chiefs running it back with Juju Smith-Schuster. He re-signed. Aaron Rodgers appears to prefer Vikings. I think that's the way. That's the best way for him. Kirk Cousins will get his $10 million roster bonus to be a backup. The Falcons will officially keep Kirk Cousins on the roster past 4 p.m. today, triggering a guaranteed $10 million roster bonus in 2026. The Falcons are expected to keep Kirk Cousins through Sunday deadline and pay him $10 million he's due. He sucks. Kirk's bag is just as big as Tom Brady's over 9 fewer seasons. His bag. Prophet, do you think Hunter will be a two-way player in the NFL? No, absolutely not. You just can't do it in the NFL. Probably should be a cornerback because that's a harder position to play. And receivers are a dime a dozen. So if I drafted him, it'd be a cornerback, but then I'd have to ask is he's the best cornerback. And really, how do you judge cornerbacks? Very difficult. Commanders re-signed defensive end Kellen Farrell, who had 3.5 sacks last year. Guy sucks. Fullback Juziak back to the 49ers. Never heard of him. Chargers signed with Becton, we talked about yesterday. Cooper Kupp, Seahawks. So that's what we got. You got the Players' Championship. It probably starts at 2 o'clock. Yeah, they were moving it up because they were looking at bad weather coming in from Alabama and Tennessee, and could cause havoc. So I think they moved it up. I will go swim. They close at 4:30. I'll go swim by about 3:30. I can get there about a little after 3. And I'm like a half hour in the pool and on Sunday and about 10 minutes in the hot tub. And then I'll go ride the bike, but the bike's open later. It's the pool that closes at 4:30. God knows why. It's really stupid. It's a Sunday. Why are you closing early? That's when people are off. You should be open till at least 6. Anyway, so that was the point of class, was really to discuss monopolies and brics. Comex, we know, is blowing up because they just don't have the physical to cover the derivatives when people take delivery. And so without the gold, people have the right to take delivery. And if you can't find the gold to do it, it's goodbye. It's all over. And that's where we're at. There's no gold left. Thanks to brics, they've basically blown up Comex because they basically are all taking derivative. And if you'll believe this idiot with, Russia's got 2,600 tons, guy's out of his fucking mind. China's got 60,000 and Russia's got 25 to 30. India's got 30, which they make mostly into jewelry, and Saudi Arabia and South Africa and Brazil, and all the BRICS countries are buying gold, a couple thousand tons here and there. So that's why you have a lot of inflation. They're using money to buy gold. And if they're going to sell it, if they're going to take the money, like here at my guy's store, if he's stupid enough to take dollars for gold, we're going to take advantage of it. So again, most people in the U.S. do not have the capability of thinking the way we think, which is that the dollar's worthless. I'm going to stay in my 401k because it's worth so much, even though it's not really worth anything. So be careful with that. Finally heard from Daria this morning. She did her CAT scan yesterday. The daughter's got, the stomach is causing the tonsillitis, which I've never heard of before. I'll have to read Barbara O'Neill on, I don't know, is it an ulcer or what? This is a 14-year-old, so I don't know if she would have an ulcer, but maybe. Who knows if she smokes or drinks? It's Russia, perfectly possible. But she's obviously not comfortable, but I've never heard that. She's had her tonsil problem for 4 weeks now, her tonsillitis. So I just assumed, Daria, this is the hard part about dating women from other cultures, is at least she did text me today, but it's like, don't forget about me here. So she gets busy probably with the daughter, probably comforting her, and she just doesn't talk to me, thinking she doesn't need to. And then like today, she finally did. After I had 100 texts going to her, going, "What the fuck what's going on?" Not that I'm worried about there's an issue between us. It's just what's going on that you can't contact me, because usually she does. So at least I heard from her. That helps me, makes me feel better. But it's like the difference is I would tell you I'm going to Vegas. She goes to Vegas, doesn't talk to me for 3 days, and then says, "Oh yeah, I went to Vegas." I mean, that's what I'm dealing with, but I got to get used to it, and I got to stay stoic. Anyway, I think that's about it. So I'll probably watch a little of the Players. I can watch it at the club when I'm on the bike, and then I'll watch it at home. But anyway, I think that's about it. So you get the gist of it. Our dollar's worthless, but so is most of the world with this Belt and Road Initiative. China's basically bankrupt Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and a lot of these other countries that are on it. High debt. Well, you got to spend spend $1 million and we'll give you $2 million in trade, but that was a lie. And then the whole thing we looked at with Brazil and China and Trump. Trump's out of his mind. And the U.S. is totally fucked with the contractor, the military contractors. You should never have went to a monopoly, but that was Clinton getting paid off to do it, I'm sure. See, it all comes back to money. Why would Clinton do something that stupid? Why did Nixon take us off of gold? Why did Gruden, that whole thing with Gruden, that's the thing. There's a lot of, people say, is football fixed? And I'll tell you, everything's fixed. The government's fixed. The comex is fixed. The stock market's fixed. Tell me something that isn't fixed. Maybe me playing poker downtown at the MGM isn't fixed because I see the guy dealing, unless he's dealing at the bottom of the deck against me. I'm pretty sure that's probably the only real thing it is. So please be careful. Buy your gold and silver. You know why? The dollar's gone, and nobody wants it. If nobody wants it, it's worthless. Nobody wants. There are all these more countries joining BRICS, more countries buying gold. The dollar's gone. I don't know. Trump can say what he wants. It's gone. He can tariff the whole world. That's not going to help them. And then they'll just, like China's doing with Brazil and Vietnam, they'll just ship it. All of a sudden, Vietnam's shipping in all this stuff in Brazil with no tariff. So anyway, China's figured it out, as I'm assuming Canada will and Mexico will. They'll just switch to a different country. That's what Russia's doing. They're switching to, Finland flags on their boat, and Finland's okay as long as it's not Russian. All right. So have a good day, everybody. Time for some Chinese. I had the general yesterday, and I'm going to finish it today. It's funny how I don't eat as much. So now what would be one meal is now 2 meals. And so I like that. So I get 2 meals of Chinese. Anyway, I did a 47-hour fast. I did end at 5 o'clock yesterday. After this, I went swimming, and then I got to Chinese. So by the time I got back, another 3 or 4 hours had passed. So, when you get to that time where you're 40 hours, you might as well go up as far as you can, because in order to do it again, I gotta fast for a whole day and a half or 2 days. And but I'm already there, so you try to take advantage of that. Anyway, hope all is well. Have a good day. www.teaserking.com. Be good. Enjoy the golf or the weather or whatever you're doing. Have a good day. Relax. Buy your gold and you just relax. All right. Take care. Do you think? Okay. Ciao.